Today we shall discuss the life of the most remarkable, complete, and merciful figure in the history of this world. He was born an orphan and raised in the Arabian town of Taif. He became known throughout his homeland for his integrity, spotless character, and unwavering sense of justice and honesty. A man destined to be known as the most influential figure in history. He alone lifted the Arab nation from the margin of history and laid the foundation for one of the world's greatest civilizations. He started with nothing and profoundly influenced the world. Greetings viewers, I Muhammad Ali Khan warmly welcome you all to my club. Today we shall discuss the life of the most remarkable, complete and merciful figure in the history of this world. Yes, we are talking about none other than the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So let's embark on this beautiful journey together. He was born an orphan and raised in the Arabian town of Taif, later moving to Mecca under the care of his family, working as a shepherd and later as a merchant, so much so that his people lovingly named him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and Al-Sadiq, the truthful. Before his coming, the Arabian Peninsula was not recognized for producing individuals of international renown. His birth filled this void, bringing a profound legacy for the Arab people to cherish and take pride in. A man destined to be known as the most influential figure in history. His name was Muhammad, meaning the praised one. For many Arab, history truly began in 570 CE, marking the birth of this distinguished son of the Quraysh tribe, a direct descendant of Prophet Ismail, peace be upon him, progenitor of the Semitic Arab lineage with no worldly resources or formal power. He alone lifted the Arab nation from the margin of history and laid the foundation for one of the world's greatest civilizations. While the Roman Empire had the splendor of Rome, Alexander the Great wielded a mighty army. Hercules commanded immense wealth, and Napoleon was well versed in the art of war, while Muhammad, peace be upon him, possessed none of these. He started with nothing and profoundly influenced the world. This was the unparalleled greatness of Muhammad, peace be upon him, whose religious and political genius remains unmatched in history. He began to take an interest in spiritual matters and retreated to the secluded Mount Hira. He began to take an interest in spiritual matters and retreated to the secluded Mount Hira on the outskirts of Mecca, engaging in worship and reflection. Meanwhile, political corruption, social inequality, economic disparity, and tribal conflicts plagued Mecca and the greater Arabian region. By the time he neared 40, his devotion to prayer and solitude at Mount Hira had intensified. On a sacred night during the month of Ramadan, his spiritual journey reached its pinnacle. On that night, the angel Gabriel appeared, bringing him the first revelation from Allah. This marked his appointment as the final prophet of humanity. This marked his appointment as a final prophet for humanity, conveying that the Quran, containing 114 chapters, was the eternal guide for mankind. This divine encounter sparked the beginning of this prophetic mission, transforming his life forever. From that moment onward, his paramount purpose became to invite people to worship the one true God. He called them to Islam, urging them to surrender to the will of Allah. When he began to openly preach Islam, a few individuals, especially those suffering under Mecca's oppressive elites, embraced his message. However, Mecca's chiefs and leaders, realizing the threat this message posed to their political and economic dominance, grew hostile. Islam challenged the tribal patriarchal system of the time, bringing a fresh perspective on politics, social justice, economy, and spirituality. Indeed, in a society rife with injustice, Mecca and by extension the Arabian Peninsula, his message became a powerful call for freedom, equality, justice, honesty, brotherhood. Some powerful tribal chiefs vigorously attempted to suppress the message of Islam to protect their vested interests, but neither he nor his followers were deterred. He continued spreading Islam with unwavering dedication in Mecca and its surroundings for nearly a decade. In 622 CE, the people of Yathrib invited him to their city, which would later be known as Medina, the city of the Prophet. His migration from Mecca to Medina is a pivotal moment in Islamic history. The Islamic calendar, known as the Hijri calendar, begins from the day he left his native city for Medina. In Medina, where he was received as a hero and embraced by its people, the city quickly became the heart of Islam. Medina became not only a holy site for Muslims but also a center for Islamic learning, culture, and civilization. The Quraysh leaders in Mecca were astounded and alarmed by his success in Medina. Having previously failed in their efforts to hinder his mission, now they devised a new plan to incite unrest in Medina by sowing discord among its inhabitants. Hypocrites, pagan tribes, Jews, and the Meccan immigrants. Eventually, the Meccan chiefs, refusing to abandon their hostility, gathered a large army to attack Medina, hoping to crush the nascent Muslim community. In the Battle of Badr, the Muhammad peace be upon him and his small band of followers confronted the Meccan army, numbering over 1,000, fully equipped and battle-ready, while the Muslims were only 313 and poorly armed. Yet, by Allah's grace, the Prophet and his companions emerged victorious. They returned to Medina in triumph, while the Meccan army returned home in humiliation. The chief of Mecca continued their relentless attempts to annihilate the Muslims but failed to penetrate the Muslims' strong defense. Eventually, they were forced to negotiate a peace treaty with the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him. Although the terms of his treaty were in favor of the Meccans, the Prophet peace be upon him accepted it despite some objections from his companions. This was a strategic move, as this period of peace allowed the Meccans to witness in practice within Medina for the first time. The society of Medina, once marred by tribal disputes, social injustice, economic inequality, political oppression, violence, mistreatment of women, and slavery, was utterly transformed under the leadership of Muhammad peace be upon him. Notable features of this reformed society included brotherhood among Muslims, love and cooperation between relatives, protection of women's rights, liberation of slaves, and a zeal for knowledge and education. Within just 10 years, he reshaped the minds, hearts, and values and behaviors of an entire tribal society. Leading by example, the Prophet, peace be upon him, guided the people of Medina. He practiced what he preached, whether on the battlefield, in prayer, in times of hardships or joy. He was always at the forefront. To them, he was Al-Insanul Kamil, or the perfect man. Their devotion and reverence for their leader were not only unparalleled but also unmatched in history. In the year 630 CE, the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him, accompanied by a devoted assembly of his companions, set forth towards Mecca. Without shedding a single drop of blood, the city was peacefully conquered, marking one of the most profound moments in history. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, entered Mecca, the throngs of people approached him, pledging their allegiance and embracing Islam. Upon entering Mecca, the Prophet, peace be upon him, declared that anyone who took refuge in the Kaaba, sought shelter in Abu Sufyan's house, or remained within their own home would be safe. As Mecca and its surrounding areas embraced Islam, the Prophet, peace be upon him, achieved what no Arab had ever accomplished. He united the diverse and perpetually varying tribes of Arabia under the banner of Islam. This unification forever altered the course of human history, igniting a transformation that was both spiritual and cultural. The Muslims of Arabia were propelled to remarkable achievements. In just 2 decades, the Prophet, peace be upon him, transformed an overlooked, barren, and underdeveloped region into a thriving center of knowledge, culture, commerce, and civilization. In the 10th year after migration, he performed the farewell pilgrimage and delivered a deeply eloquent, impactful sermon before an audience of over 120,000 in the plain of Arafat. O people, just as you regard this month, this day, and this city as sacred, so too should you regard the life and property of every Muslim as sacred. Consider everything entrusted to you as an amana, trust, and fulfill this trust faithfully. Do not harm others so that no one may harm you. Remember that you will stand before Allah and account for your deeds. All outstanding interest is abolished. You are entitled only to your principal. Allah has forbidden interest. Do not commit oppression, not accept oppression. The Prophet, peace be upon him, continued, guard yourself from Satan to safeguard your faith. He has lost hope of leading you astray in significant matters, but beware of following him in minor ones. The Prophet, peace be upon him, emphasized worship Allah, perform the 5 daily prayers, fast during Ramadan, give zakat, and if able, perform Hajj. All of humanity descends from Adam and Eve. There is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab, nor of a white person over a black person, or a black person over a white, except by pity. All believers are brothers and from one nation. It is not lawful for you to take the wealth of another Muslim unless he gives it willingly. Therefore, do not wrong yourself. This sermon reflects the beauty and uniqueness of his speech. Though unlettered, the Prophet, peace be upon him, communicated effectively with people of all ages, backgrounds, and levels of education. Even his critics acknowledged his logical reasoning, sharp intellectual, organizational ability, and practical approach. He was neither overly strict nor overly lenient, embodying a balanced and moderate way in all matters. After successfully completing his prophetic mission, the Prophet, peace be upon him, returned to Medina, where he passed away at the age of 63. The achievements of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, are so vast and varied that they would require numerous narratives to capture in their entirety. He was an extraordinary, gifted individual who, through his unique personality and powerful character, provided not only Muslims with a perfect model, but also imparted the finest values and ethics to humanity.